Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Mohammed Kantawi and I am a university teacher in Wergla. In today's session we shall be talking about linguistics. I shall be completing part 2 about the characteristics of linguistics. Last time we spoke about 7 characteristics and we left 6 characteristics unexplained. And so today we're going to explain these 6 characteristics of language. The first characteristic is discreteness, and this characteristic or feature or trait of language is about the idea that phonemes are discrete sounds. It means it is either one or the other. There's no intermediary sounds in between. And let's take some example. Let's take the example of p and b. Now when you pronounce p or b, there's no intermediate sounds in between. It is either p in that sound or b in that sound. And certainly since it's a phoneme, it has got a function, and the function is different from p to, and the function of p is different to the function of b. And so if I said bat, like Batman, so let's take the word bat, the bird, and the word pat, to pat on my shoulder. So there's a difference. A native speaker or any competent speaker or listener can directly understand whether you are using b or p. He can't really make any sort of intermediate sound between p and b. He will directly recognize perceptibly, by perception, that you pronounced p or b, and that's discreteness. The second characteristic is about semanticity. Semanticity is the idea that phonemes, when they are combined together in the second level, remember that we spoke about the first level and the second level. The first level is meaningless and the second level is meaningful. So when phonemes combine together to make morphemes and to make words, to make phrases, clauses, sentences, texts, books, that means there's meaning to it. So the phoneme itself is meaningless, but when the phoneme combines with a possible combination, certainly not any kind of combination in English, there should be a possible combination of phonemes to create a morpheme or a word, a complete word, and that's semanticity. For example, the phonemes p and a and t, if they are separate, they are meaningless. They don't have any kind of meaning. But when we combine them together in this order, and this is a possible combination in English, so we say pat. So pat is a complete free morpheme, and free morpheme is a word independent. And it's a free morpheme or a complete word, because the free morpheme, we know that the free morpheme is a word. And that's about semanticity. So the word pat has meaning, has an amount of semanticity to it. The third characteristic is about arbitrariness. Some people think that language is arbitrary, or many people do. And students have got to abide by this idea that language is arbitrary. There's no logical relationship between the signifier and the signified. In my opinion, there is, but we don't know it. But people, linguisticians, grammarians, a lot of scientists and scholars believe that language is arbitrary. One of the characteristics of language is that it is arbitrary. How it is arbitrary? Because they say that there's no relationship, for example, between the sounds table, these phonemes, table, and the graphemes when they are written on paper, and the object in reality. There's no logical relationship between them. Well, in my opinion, there is a relationship, but we simply don't know. We have to be humble and say we don't know it. But people say no. I mean, there's no relationship between the signifier, which is the sounds in the air, or the graphemes on paper, and the object in reality, the touchable or the tangible objects in reality, like a table. Or sometimes they say that the arbitrariness can be also detected in the idea that objects are named differently in different languages. For example, in English, we say a dog but in French we say le chien. And so, what is the relationship between these two words? Dog and le chien. Why not the same word, but pronounced differently in different languages? They say this is also a mark of arbitrariness. And I would say it's not. Simply it's not, because we don't know why the word dog is named in French le chien. And so my idea that there is no arbitrariness in language, but students have got to abide, have got to accept the idea that language is arbitrary in nature. The fourth characteristic is about structure dependence. When we say structure dependence, we say, for example, words depend upon the combination of phonemes or the combination of morphemes. If these morphemes are, one is free and the other is bound. And so, for example, this is the word structure. For example, to create a word like, for example, pat, you have got to have the structure from p and a and t to make it pat. And this is structure dependence or structure dependency. This is another characteristic of language. And so that means phrases depend upon the combination of words, clauses depend upon the combination of phrases, sentences depend upon the combination of clauses, and paragraphs depend upon the combination of sentences, and blah blah blah. And that's structure dependence, from the smallest element to the biggest element. The fifth characteristic is prevarication, from the verb to prevaricate. It means to tell a lie. Prevarication, this is a characteristic of language, that language can enable us to lie, to tell untruths, and to falsify information, and to deceive. So the idea of prevarication is about deception, lying, and telling the untruth, telling untruths. And this is, language does not only enable us to give correct or true information, but it can also enable us. It also enables us to give false information or to lie to people, or to give promises and then we renege them. We don't keep our promises. We don't keep our words. And that's the characteristic of prevarication. The last characteristic is reflexivity. Reflexivity is about the idea that language can be used to speak about language. And you can see the verb reflect from reflexive. Language can be used to speak about language. For example, if I want to speak about the word God in Persian, I would say that the word for God in Persian is Khoda. And we add the word vand, Khodavand, for majesty. And so, for example, to speak also about language, I would say the passive voice is created by having verb to be plus the past participle of the verb, plus also by, if you'd like to have by or with. Sometimes you can have by, rarely you would have with. And so to use language to speak about language, this kind of characteristics is called reflexivity. And these are the characteristics of language, the 6 other characteristics of language. Let's repeat them. We spoke about discreteness. We spoke about semanticity. We spoke about arbitrariness. We spoke about structure dependence. We spoke about prevarication. And the last one, we spoke about reflexivity. Thank you so much, and goodbye.